We never get tired. We will continue to move forward in that direction. And so I was telling all the ministers, I said to tighten the belt. Since we've been here, there are no government vacations. It works 24/7. The same goes for the alt. There are no vacations for deputies to go rest in the village. We must work 24/7, 12 months a year. So we are in this rhythm. As long as the soldiers at the front have no rest, there is no reason for us to have rest behind.
Brothers and sisters, as we arrive at the close of this historic broadcast, let us pause and recognize the immensity of what has just unfolded before our eyes. Ibrahim Traore, the son of Africa, has not merely signed a document, not merely shaken hands in a boardroom. He has rewritten the destiny of an entire continent with this record-breaking $50 billion solar energy deal with China. What does this mean? It means that no child in Burkina Faso should ever again have to study by candlelight while their nation's gold fuels Western banks. It means no hospital should shut its doors because there is no power to keep the lights on. No farmer should lose his harvest because there is no energy to preserve it. And no African leader should ever again be told to beg for aid when our own soil holds the keys to abundance. For centuries, the West sought to trap us in cycles of darkness, dependency, and despair. They took our oil, our gas, our diamonds, and in return, they gave us aid packages bound in chains, loans with suffocating conditions, and promises that only enslaved us further. But today, Ibrahim Traore has shattered that pattern. With this deal, Africa is no longer asking permission to rise. We are rising because the dawn is ours, the sun is ours, the future is ours. This $50 billion investment is not simply energy infrastructure. It is the emancipation of a people who have for too long been told to wait their turn. Our turn is now. Think of the symbolism: solar energy, light itself, becoming the foundation of Burkina Faso's future. For generations, Africa's greatest enemy has been not poverty, but the deliberate theft of opportunity. But today, light has been claimed as a weapon of sovereignty. From Ouagadougou to Bobo Dioulasso, from the smallest village to the capital, Burkina Faso will shine. And as Burkina Faso shines, so too will Mali, Niger, Guinea, Senegal, Nigeria, Ghana, Tanzania, South Africa. One by one, nations will see that the chains of neocolonialism are not unbreakable. And let us be clear, the West is terrified. They did not imagine that a young captain, a man they underestimated, would become the spearhead of a new era. They did not imagine that Burkina Faso, a nation they thought too small, would birth a revolution too big to contain. But here we are, and there is no turning back. The age of begging is over. The age of powerlessness is over. This is the age of African determination, African vision, African unity. So tonight, as this broadcast reaches the hearts of our people across the continent and the diaspora, let us take this as a call to action. Let us build on what Traore has started. Let us unite beyond borders, languages, and religions. Let us invest in our people, in our land, in our future. Let us guard this light fiercely, for the enemies of Africa will not sit idle. They will conspire, they will sabotage, they will attempt to dim this flame. But if we stand together, if we believe in ourselves as Traore believes in us, then no force on earth can put out the fire that has been lit. In conclusion, let it be remembered that on this day, Ibrahim Traore did not only sign a deal, he signed a new chapter in Africa's story. A chapter where we no longer define ourselves by what we lack, but by what we create. A chapter where the sun itself becomes a partner in our freedom. And as the sun rises tomorrow over Burkina Faso, may every African look to it and say, "We are no longer shadows in the world's story, we are the light." This is not the end, my brothers and sisters, it is only the beginning. The age of African power has dawned, and nothing, not even the mightiest empire, will stop its rise. Brothers and sisters, men and women of Africa, citizens of the world who hunger for justice, let me hold your attention for a moment that demands not only your ears, but your very spirit. Imagine this: a continent once written off as dark, dependent, and voiceless, suddenly standing tall, radiant, and unstoppable. Imagine a leader whose every move rattles the tables of power, whose courage refuses to bow, whose vision for Africa is not survival, but victory. Today, we stand before such a moment that history will carve deep into stone. Ibrahim Traore, the young captain of Burkina Faso, has struck a deal so monumental, so staggering in its scale, that it tears apart centuries of imposed limitation. A $50 billion solar energy deal with China, not millions, not even a few billions, but $50 billion invested in the light of Africa. $50 billion that will not only brighten the homes of Burkinabé children, but ignite a fire of energy independence across the entire continent. This is not just about solar panels or electricity. This is about liberation. This is about a people no longer waiting for the West to hand them candles while keeping the sun for themselves. This is about Africa stepping forward into an age where no imperialist hand can switch off our future. For centuries, Africa has been the land of riches with people kept in shadows. Our oil fed foreign machines, our gold filled foreign vaults, our diamonds decorated foreign crowns, while our children studied under lanterns and mothers cooked in darkness. The same nations that drained our lifeblood came back with aid packages wrapped in chains, telling us to be grateful for scraps from a table built with our stolen wealth. But what happens when a nation, when a leader, when a people decide to say enough? What happens when we refuse the crumbs and demand the feast prepared from our own harvest? That is what we are witnessing today. Traore's signature on this deal is not ink, it is fire. It is the fire that burns away dependency, the fire that lights up schools, hospitals, and villages that have waited generations for light. It is the fire that signals to every African nation, you no longer have to beg, you no longer have to borrow dignity from those who never wish to see you rise. With China's partnership, Burkina Faso is building the largest solar energy project in Africa's history, one that will not just transform Burkina Faso, but send a shockwave across the entire global south. And do not think the West is not trembling. Make no mistake, this deal is a slap in the face to centuries of exploitation. It is a declaration that Burkina Faso, a nation they mocked as poor, weak, and fragile, has now positioned itself at the heart of a global energy revolution. Traore is not merely building solar grids. He is dismantling colonial systems. He is not just generating electricity. He is generating power, the true power of self-determination. So tonight, as we gather around radios, televisions, and phones, let us understand the gravity of this hour. This is not just Burkina Faso's triumph. It is Africa's. It is the Caribbean's. It is the voice of every colonized people rising together. The question is no longer whether we can rise, but whether we will dare to seize the light that is now within our reach. This, my brothers and sisters, is the dawn of a new sun, a sun no longer owned by empires, but shared by Africa's children. A sun that will rise not just over Ouagadougou, but over Bamako, Niamey, Accra, Lagos, Nairobi, and beyond. Tonight, Ibrahim Traore has given us not just a deal, not just an agreement, but a symbol, an eternal flame that will not be extinguished. Now let me take you deeper into this story, into the courage, the strategy, and the thunderous meaning behind this record-breaking $50 billion solar energy deal, and why it is shaking the entire world to its core. Brothers and sisters of Africa, and citizens of the world who still dare to believe in justice, equity, and sovereignty, tonight I stand before you not merely as a presenter of news, but as a voice echoing the heartbeat of a continent rising from the ashes of exploitation into the dawn of power, pride, and possibility. For history has unfolded before our eyes, and it has done so not in whispers, but in thunder. Burkina Faso, a landlocked nation that the world once dismissed as too small to, poor too insignificant to matter on the global stage, has now set the world ablaze with a deal so monumental, so transformative, that even the greatest powers tremble at its implications. Under the fearless leadership of President Ibrahim Traore, Burkina Faso has just signed a historic, record-breaking $50 billion solar energy deal with China. Let us pause and reflect on what this means. For over a century, Africa was carved apart and drained of its lifeblood. Gold, oil, uranium, diamonds, coltan, our resources were ripped from the soil by foreign hands. And what was left for us? Darkness, villages without electricity, cities suffocated by power shortages, dreams strangled before they could blossom. They said Africa was a land destined to remain in the shadows. But tonight, Ibrahim Traore has shattered that narrative. He has shown us that Africa is not a beggar at the table of nations, it is the very table itself. With this solar energy project, Burkina Faso is not only electrifying its future, but electrifying the imagination of every African child who has ever studied by candlelight, every farmer who has lost crops to drought, every mother who has prayed for a hospital with steady power to save her child's life. This is not just an agreement with China, it is an agreement with destiny. For $50 billion is not merely a number, it is a declaration. It is the loud and undeniable statement that Africa refuses to be a consumer of discarded energy scraps from the West, but will instead be a producer of the most abundant, clean, and futuristic energy source known to humankind, the sun. The details of this deal are staggering. Across the Sahel, vast solar farms will bloom like fields of light, stretching across Burkina Faso's deserts and savannas, turning once barren lands into epicenters of power and innovation. High-capacity transmission lines will weave through towns and villages, binding communities into grids of light, ensuring that no African home remains a prisoner of darkness. Energy storage plants, built with cutting-edge Chinese technology, will guarantee that not even the setting of the sun can halt the flow of electricity. And yet, brothers and sisters, this is about more than watts and megawatts. This is about sovereignty. For too long, Africa has depended on the West for energy. They sold us oil at inflated prices. They trapped us in debt through power loans. They convinced us that our only path to modernity was through their handouts. But with this deal, Traore has said no more. Africa will no longer beg for crumbs when it can bake its own bread. The world is watching. Western capitals are in panic. In Washington, policymakers whisper, "What if this spreads?" In Paris, they ask, "What if other African nations follow suit?" In Brussels, they mutter, "What if Africa becomes independent in energy and no longer bends to our demands?" And they are right to fear, because this deal is not the end, it is the beginning. It is a signal to Mali, Niger, Ghana, Senegal, Ethiopia, and beyond that the time of begging is over. The time of partnerships, built on dignity and mutual respect, has begun. Traore has lit the torch, and now it is up to all of Africa to carry it. Let us not forget the symbolism of this alliance. China, a nation once ravaged by colonial exploitation, now rises as an ally to Africa in a new era. This partnership is not born of pity, but of respect. China sees in Africa not a charity case, but a partner with whom to build the future. And make no mistake, the sun that shines over Burkina Faso is the same sun that shines over the entire continent. It cannot be colonized, it cannot be stolen, it cannot be patented. The sun belongs to us all, and now, at last, Africa is harnessing its power. Think of what this means for our people. Imagine farmers irrigating fields through solar-powered systems, turning deserts into gardens. Imagine schools lit through the night, where students study without fear of blackouts. Imagine industries powered not by foreign oil, but by African sun. Imagine African nations exporting clean energy instead of importing fossil fuel. That is not just progress, that is liberation. And do not think for a moment that this was easy. The pressure on Traore was immense. Envoys from the West tried to dissuade him. Offers were made, bribes were whispered, threats were implied. They wanted Burkina Faso to remain in the darkness, to remain dependent, to remain weak. But Traore stood firm. He looked them in the eye and said, "We will chart our own course." Brothers and sisters, this is not just about Burkina Faso. This is about Africa reclaiming its right to dream. This is about an entire continent saying, "We are no longer victims. We are victors." And as this deal unfolds, we will see ripple effects across the globe. Energy independence means political independence. Political independence means economic power. And economic power means that Africa will no longer be dictated to, it will dictate. Mark my words, the history books will record this moment not as an isolated deal, but as the spark that lit the fire of African Renaissance. Just as the pyramids once stood as symbols of African ingenuity, so too will these solar fields stand as monuments of our rebirth. And to those who doubt, to those who sneer, to those who whisper that this is too ambitious, let us remind them, every revolution in history was once called impossible. They said Africa could not govern itself. We proved them wrong. They said Africans could not unite. We are proving them wrong. They said Burkina Faso could not lead the world in renewable energy. Tonight, Ibrahim Traore has proven them wrong. So let this message resound across every valley, every mountain, every village, and every city. The sun of Africa has risen, and it will not set again. Burkina Faso, under the fearless hand of Ibrahim Traore, has shown the path. Now the question is, who will follow? Brothers and sisters, the struggle is not over. But tonight, we can say with certainty, the future is ours. Africa is not waiting. Africa is not begging. Africa is rising. And nothing will stop her.